Is it the people I'm talking to and the things that I'm feeling myself? Is it we're reaching back to our true humanity? What alive? It's bringing life to the very essence of who you are so that I can be who I am. But if you don't know and you're doing things that are making it not right, you can hurt yourself.
Dr. Gladys, welcome. How are you, my dear?
I'm fine, thank you.
I am so grateful and honored to have you with me today.
Oh,
I cannot tell you how much joy I feel because I am getting the chance to actually speak with you.
oh.
I'm going to start off right off the bat and ask you, what is love, Dr. Gladys, for you?
What is what?
What is love?
Love.
Yes.
It's the essence of life. It's what's important in life. You can try to squeeze things in here and there, but if it's just a push and a shove without love, it doesn't carry the message that you're trying to get across, which is, I love you.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Dr. Gladys, you've practiced medicine for over 70 years.
I guess that adds up, doesn't it?
It does add up, and you are termed as the mother of holistic medicine.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel to you, and what does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me?
Yes, being the mother of holistic medicine.
Well, now that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm the mother of 6 wonderful children who I'm very proud of.
Nice.
And if the work that I did is tucked in with that, then that's really nice, because that's what I did, but it was my work.
And what was it like for you to grow up partly in India and then come to the States? That culture change, what was that like for you?
Well, it was a huge step, I tell you. It was, well, like this. My first assembly in the chapel, they started off singing America, you know, the song. And I didn't know that. I started singing God Bless Our Gracious King. And I was singing loud enough that the man who was standing in front of me in the chapel turned around and he's laughing. He says, my parents are missionaries in Egypt and I did the same thing. Because you see, at that time, India and Egypt were subject to the British Raj. And the king and queen and all, they were the people that were in charge of stuff. So anyway, it was that kind of a shift. And I didn't know any of the movie stars. The movie stars to me were Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret, you know, that. And I didn't know the music. I didn't know, well, I just had to learn things bit by bit as I went through, because it was a whole new area of learning that I had to take on, not just the academic stuff, but how the other, and then my job at the dormitory was to be in charge of the getting the see, we had to work for part of our tuition. So my job was to get the girls in the dormitory onto the phone. Well, I had never used a phone. I had no idea what to do with that. And I had to plug it in the right place. And then, according to everybody that was talking to me, I had a British accent, which I didn't think I had, but they said I had. So, it was all kinds of little corners that I had to move into. But fortunately, my sister was 2 years older than I, and she was not in the dormitory with me, but she was a senior in college. And so she was there for me all the time. It was amazing.
Is that because your parents were missionaries, doctors in India, is that what prompted you to practice medicine and follow the medicine path?
I'm sure it is, but I know that I came into this life knowing this was my job.
Mm.
When Margaret and my sister and I played with our dolls, she wouldn't let me play with hers because my dolls got sicker and hers didn't. I was always treating this doll had this kind of something or other, and so from the time I was little, I was taking care of my dolls, and so I think a lot of us come into this life in our hearts, knowing what it is that we are going to be doing. And if we allow ourselves to look for that, we can find it, because it's there, it's trying to let us know.
Do you know how that felt, or what was that knowing? Because I speak with a lot of young individuals, especially women, and even some that are older, and I still find them struggling to figure out what it is that they're here to do or what their path is. So how did you go, yes, this is what it feels like, this is what I'm here to do?
Well, I knew what my parents were here to do. I knew what my sister said she was here to do. She came to be a nurse, and nobody could talk her into going to medical. She didn't want to be a doctor. She wanted to be a nurse. So she went to Johns Hopkins Nurses Training School and became a nurse, It's one of the things that was probably very helpful was that my parents watched what we kids were doing in the way of where our energy was going and encouraged that. So when I was helping my mother, I thought that was my job when my dad wasn't around. She encouraged that in the medical tent and so on. That's how come I got to help her take care of an elephant one time. It's a matter of using what comes. It's what my mother always called make do.
Mm.
There are two things that are interesting. Make do with whatever you have, make do, and 𝙁𝙊𝙉𝙀𝙀, which in Hindustani means it doesn't matter. Because there's so much stuff comes at us, which if it's something and like somebody says something neat, not nice about you, and you take it in and it lets you hurt yourself, you can let that happen. That's a choice. Or it can come and you can say, it doesn't matter. In Hindustani, it's 𝙁𝙊𝙉𝙀𝙀, and you catch it in your hand and you let it drop.
Mm.
My sister and I didn't understand that until we were in our 90s. We were sitting talking to each other, and we'd say something and we'd do this hand movement. And together on one time we said, why do we do that? And we looked at each other and we said, well, when we do that, what is it we're saying? And we both said, in turn, we said, oh, 𝙁𝙍𝙀𝙀𝙀, which in Hindustani meant, oh, it doesn't matter. So then we looked at each other again and we said, well, who was it used to say that all the time? And we said, our mother did. So we had learned from our mother that a lot of things that come into our life are things that we can just let go of. If we take it in, it becomes toxic. If we don't even know what they were, what it was. It's gone. It's a 𝙁𝙍𝙀𝙀𝙀. It just doesn't matter.
Is that how you started to go down the path of holistic medicine? Because obviously you graduated as a medical doctor, and then you started to take on more holistic practices to incorporate them, because you're termed with living medicine. Is that some of the concepts that started you down this path?
Absolutely. Because when I was in medical school, the dean of the school didn't think I had the right attitude about what I was supposed to be doing in medicine. And she sent me to the psychiatrist 3 different times. And the psychiatrist sent me back and told the dean I was okay. But I was questioning. I had questions for the teachers, and I had questions that didn't make any sense to the teachers. I guess because I guess that's where it was coming from, that I had this strange take on what medicine was all about.
So what is living medicine for people to really comprehend?
It's a focus on what we as individuals can do about keeping ourselves healthy, about loving ourselves enough to understand that, what a great life. And look what we're getting to do. And look who we are. And look as we look to who we are and what our job is, we can tuck our other people that we love in around us and understand what it is that they are. Because they're just as important as we are, but they're important to themselves and to the people that are their community.
What was the prompt for you to write your book, The Well-Lived Life?
For years, I had written books about medicine. The first book I wrote was about birthing, but different aspects of medicine as I, as a family doctor, was practicing it. But I there was more to it than I could put into the actual practice of medicine. And that's what this book is about. It's how the actual energy that we use to practice holistic medicine. It's that inner reaching. It's sort of like my soul reaches towards thy soul. It's that reaching. It's like my oldest son he finished his training in orthopedics and came through Phoenix to go down to Del Rio to start his practice in orthopedics. And he said to me as he came to Phoenix, Mom, I'm real scared. He said, I'm going to go into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hands. He said, I don't think I can handle that. And I said, well, Carl, let's look at it a little differently. Maybe you're not the one that's supposed to be doing the healing. You're supposed to be doing good orthopedics. That's what you're trying to do. It's like, if I have something broken I don't want a barber fixing it. I want a good orthopedic surgeon who knows what's being done and how it could be fixed to fix it. But that's your job, to reach the physician within the patient who really does the healing. In other words, you are doing your work of orthopedic surgery or orthopedic, whatever you're doing, that you're then turning the actual healing of the body over to the physician within that patient who is your colleague. And this is your partner that's going to actually do the healing. So it's not your job to do that healing. It's your job to do what you're trying to do, which is orthopedics.
That is incredible insights of how much power we actually own within ourselves, of what is possible for us and we can create. For you, as you practiced medicine, because you did the mind-body connection and spirit, you weren't only working on the medical stuff. What was that for you to get your patients to understand that they do have a physician within them?
Well, it's a way of reaching out to the patient with love enough that they can understand what you're doing. It's sort of when you work with your kids or with friends or anything. If you're loving that person that you're working with, they'll understand it in ways that you can, well, all right, let's say this, in ways that are very hard to explain, because it's their way of understanding it that's important, not the neighbors or anybody else's way.
That's brilliant. Their way of understanding it. You have seen medicine change over all these decades. What do you think is the most important thing that we need to understand as we're going forward?
Okay, let me put that, how I was able to put it into context.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I call it the 5 L's. The first 2 L's are love and life, and they work together. It's like when we're pregnant. The mother and the baby are one being. What I eat, the baby eats. What I think, the baby thinks. During this process of pregnancy, we're one unit. So that life and love is together. But life takes on its own identity when that baby takes its first breath. When that baby is born and takes his first breath, he claims his life. All right, so the first is life. The second is love. The third is laughter.
Mm.
And laughter without love is mean. It's cruel. It breaks families apart. It causes wars. It's just very cold. But laughter with love is joy and happiness. It's what holds the family together. It's what attracts you to your tribe, to the people that you love around you. So laughter with love is joy and happiness. The fourth one is labor. Labor without love is, oh, I got to go to work. Too many diapers, that kind of thing. And so you drag yourself through it and you do what you'd have to do. But, oh, It's hard work. But labor with love is bliss. It's why you're doing what you're doing. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's you work 10 times as hard doing the work that you're doing now as you did when, oh, I don't know, but yeah, I think because it works like that with me. When we are doing the thing that we dragged ourselves through to do. And so labor is drudgery without love. And labor, let's see, listening is the fifth one. Listening without love is empty sound. It's a clanging gong. You're not going to listen. If my oldest son hadn't listened to me about listening to the physician within the other person, he wouldn't have been able to practice his medicine the way he did. But listening with love is understanding. So when I was able to put my philosophy into these 5 L's, it helped me explain to myself what was going on so that I could explain it to other people.
That is very, very impressive to put all these categories together so that people understand that it's all connected. It's not one or the other. Go ahead.
It's an individual thing. It's something that only we can understand about how we're understanding it. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. Thank you. Speak as much as you like. I'm here to hear you, not me. Dr. Gladys, because you have lived 103, coming on 104 very soon, you've seen enough things in your life that have altered humanity. What would you love to see if I said, Dr. Gladys, 100 years from now, you're going to get to come and see what's going on back on Earth? What would you like to see?
That we had reached back to our true humanity enough that we had claimed who we truly were. It's sort of like, this is not a theology. This is just my thinking. Like when God, whatever God is to each one of us, created the universe, God created the universe and it was perfect. Everything was right where it belonged, in right place, the right thing. It was perfect. And then God created the human being. And he said to us, now, you're the only beings, living beings, on this creation of ours that has free will and choice. So now I give you dominion over this whole creation. And we, in our arrogance, decided, he said, dominance, which meant, oh boy, it's mine. And we took it, and look what we've done to poor Mother Earth and in our environment and so on. But the thing that I'm so excited about right now is that the people I'm talking to and the things that I'm feeling myself is that we're reaching back to our true humanity. We're saying, okay, what is it? How can we do that as a part of having dominion over the universe, not dominance? So it's putting things in context with life and love.
That gave me goosebumps because that is the thing that runs through my mind consistently is, where is our humanity? Because I know none of us are going to leave this earth with anything except the deeds that we've done and the way that we have lived and the way that we've treated each other.
Yeah.
So how do you perceive that we can make an impact on people to begin to live towards that vision, towards better humanity?
What is it as we're working with ourselves, because we start with ourselves and with each other, that make us laugh and sing, make us want to dance and do the things that we want? What makes us want to reach for more, not to take in and have, because we want to have it something that we can work with, something that makes our hearts sing.
So what keeps you going to do these podcasts and to get on with people that ask you lots of questions? What prompts you to continue to do this?
Looking into your face and seeing what you're taking in, seeing how you're understanding what I'm saying. And this connection is a love, learning, listening process that we're rolling up and using. And it's making that life force alive. It's bringing life to the very essence of who you are, so that I can be who I am.
Now, you've had the opportunity to travel to multiple countries, lived in India, went to Afghanistan. I don't know what other countries you've been to, but women in the Western world in general are very privileged to all the things that we have available to us and a lot of the conveniences. What would you like women to understand about our responsibility towards each other, towards everybody? And would you even put it as a responsibility?
Well, the reason I had a chance to go to Afghanistan is because my second brother, Carl Taylor, had started Future Generations, an organization that his son Dan is still keeping going around the world. They have communities of people who are reaching for a full life and for the things that they really want to work. So that process, my brother decided that, well, he had been trying to understand why the women in Afghanistan had the highest death rate, maternal death rate, of any place in the world. But they couldn't get any answer to it because the men wouldn't let them talk to the women. And so then women couldn't talk to the men. I mean, it was that it was impossible to get any information. So I was just ready to retire from my practice of medicine. And he asked me if I would consider coming over to Afghanistan and doing a workshop actually with these Afghani women. And I jumped at it because it was exactly the kind of thing that I needed to further what it was I was going to be doing. And so he had 34 women from 10 different villages come for a week-long workshop into this one. We were living in a large auditorium kind of room, and we were eating together and sleeping together and, just getting to know each other. And I had Shukriya Hassan, wonderful Afghani physician, an MD, who was could translate for me. And so these women knew nothing about, after they got pregnant, they knew nothing about what went on in this belly of theirs. Just like, I ate my breakfast and I'm not paying any attention to what's going on in there because it takes care of itself. But if you don't know and you're doing things that are making it not right, you can hurt yourself. So what was happening was that the women actually didn't know what went on. They knew how they got pregnant, but after that, they didn't know anything. So I had a piece of chalk and a piece of a blackboard, and I was able to explain to them their anatomy and what went on and what the menstrual period was all about and all of these things that we as women like to know, I think if I didn't understand my own physiology, I'd be feeling pretty wonky. So I think that's what they and the men didn't know what to do. They were stuck. But the women lapped it up. They understood it. They knew what it was. And so that one woman said, "How many sperm?" And I said, "Millions." And the egg gets to choose which sperm it wants. Whoa, these women were so happy. The first day of their lives, they knew they had choice. So anyway, it was that kind of a joyful time that we spent together. And they took the information back home with them so that within a period of just a few months, it began changing. The death rate began changing because what they had done in their actual ignorance, not that they were stupid, they just didn't know any better. When they got pregnant, a pregnant woman wasn't allowed to eat things that had calcium in them, like yogurt, eggs, and carrots and that kind of thing. So by the time they were in labor, when they were talking about being labor, most all of them would be talking about being labor, and they clench their fist, which is post lack of calcium tetany. So if your muscles are going like this, what do you think the muscles in your abdomen are doing? I mean, they're doing the same thing. They're not cooperating and allowing you to push the baby out. They're tightening up just like the body, the rest of the body. So when we were able to explain that to them, and they understood that the way they were doing it, which was when they, first of all, they had, their diet was poor during the whole pregnancy. But when they were in labor, they weren't given anything to eat or drink. So you got a starved and hungry woman trying to push out this baby, which she can't really do very well. So somebody from the outside has to push it out. So you'd end up with a inverted uterus with, well, all kinds of pelvic problems. And so it was, they understood what it was doing. And within 3 to 6 months, the statistics were changing after they went home. Because, women, you teach women something, they're going to teach. I don't know whether they know it or not, but we have to do it. whether we teach our kids or the neighbors or somebody else, if we've learned something new, oh boy, we have to teach that. It's in us to do it that way.
And you did this at the age of 86, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what do you believe, or do you even think of, what responsibilities do we have as women towards each other? Because we are the nurturers, we are the people that educate. We learn something, we want to turn around and teach it. What do you think is our responsibility? And maybe that's a heavy word for some people.
It's not. It's essential, because whether we know it or not, that's why we have children. We're supposed to teach our children, but our mothers taught us, and their mothers taught them. And, I think we're born teachers. We may not have a certificate as a teacher or, a diploma or anything, but our inner nature is to teach each other. And if you get a good recipe, you want to share it with somebody. I don't do that much cooking, but around now. But if you get something that you really appreciate, you want to share it with others. It's that inner need to keep life going.
Dr. Gladys, what was it like for you to go through 2 bouts with cancer? Because a lot of people think, oh, she's a physician, she knows all of this. But what was it like for you to experience it, and what was your attitude?
Well, the first time I had cancer of the thyroid, and I did all the holistic things that I was teaching people at that time. I was in my 30s, and this was something that I could do. I took a month off from practice of medicine. I did a fast and just a whole protocol of things that I knew I could do, but I was not working at the time. I stayed home, and I was able to take time to meditate and use castor oil packs and do things and visualize and work with this. It was a nodule on my thyroid, and it disappeared. It went away. So that was the first one. The second one was when I was in my 90s, and I was just plain too busy to take that time off. And I knew that the business of medicine had progressed in ways that were much less which much more in tune with our life force than attacking the very life force in order to get in touch with it. So I was able to work with the radiologist and in the way we were doing it and what we were thinking about, getting directly to the cell and just radiate that, not the way we were doing it when I was in medical school. It was awful. Anyway, it was completely different. So I was able to do a way of conventional medicine, working with my ideology and philosophy enough that it worked. So in my mind and in my activities, I created a little suitcase that was my breast here in my mind, okay? And it was a really huge suitcase. I mean, I had it all done the way I wanted to. And I told this cancer stuff to go get in that suitcase and let any cancer cells that were any place in my body know that there was going to come a time when they were going to all take a huge picnic. But they needed to come and get in that suitcase first and then go off and have their picnic. So in the months that, or there were, I don't know how long it was, but in the time that followed that process, until I had the actual lumpectomy and had the thyroid, the cancer lump removed, I was able to visualize what was going on, and the lump was removed. And that day, I let these cells in my body know this was picnic time, and they were to go off in this picnic, and in the suitcase was, so we had ourselves a picnic. It made it a workable way in which my mind worked. And now, maybe nobody else's mind works like that. And it doesn't need to, but if it works for you in the way that you could create something that would be kind of fun and interesting and living, then let's do it.
So would that be your suggestion to women, men, everybody, when they're going through something that is challenging to them? They feel that it's challenging, whether it's health or something else. Would you say to them to pay attention to their mind? What is it that you'd say to them?
Well, it depends, because it depends on how creative or how receptive they are. So, you make contact with what they're working with, and then work together to create something that works for you. I have to tell you, it doesn't, it's a life process. I had this one patient for several years who used to come in, I don't know, she was having shoulder pain in her right shoulder. And we'd sit and we'd talk about what she could do to ease the shoulder pain. I gave her stuff to think about, And it went on for several months. And then one time she's back in, same problem, no help at all. And when she's ready to leave, she turns around and picks up her purse, which was over the back of the chair, and it was a heavy purse, and she put it on her shoulder. And the two of us looked at each other and sat down and bent over laughing. I mean, we'd spent all of this time looking for something there that was causing this. And here it was. Every time she picked up her purse, she was injuring that shoulder. So sometimes it's that kind of a obvious thing that is so obvious you don't see it. When you're so used to doing something, you don't see how you're doing it. You just do it. And yet, if that's what's causing the problem, well, do something about that purse.
What was your perspective on medicine when you first started compared to what it is today?
Well, it was in the middle of World War II started when I started medical school. Okay. So and penicillin was invented at that time.
Mm.
So when you ask me that question, it involves all kinds of new energy and concepts about what healing is about, huge waves of information and understanding about what healing is all about. And it's continued, you know. We know so much more about what's going on when we're working with a patient who is in the process of healing. It's so different. I can't even, well, it's hard for me to answer your question because we just used what we had at hand. It's like my parents out in the jungles of North India. They didn't have anything but quinine for malaria, mostly. That was the main medicine. But they had healings happen. They pulled teeth when they needed to pull teeth, and they did little, you know, local surgery. And my mother helped an elephant, and you know, it just depended on who was there and what was needed, and the people responded.
What is the 10-year plan that you have a vision for? Elaborate on that one. For living, what is the 10-year plan that you have for living, for people to live better? Living medicine.
Oh, what is it, John? Oh, walk. Let's ask.
Oh, good.
And then I'll come up with it.
Don't worry.
It's we're working towards health. It's I'll come up with it.
Don't worry about it. Let's go to something. Let's go to something else. Let's talk about you're a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. What's it like for you to be able to see several generations and to see how life is moving at such a fast pace?
It's a joy in my life. It really is. It's like Ian, my son John's here. He has a grandson named Ian, okay? And Ian and his little Sunday school partners, there was a little girl and a little boy and Ian, and they were standing around a dish that they were putting their nickels and dimes in because they were their Sunday school class was going to send this to some place where the people didn't have enough money to have a well. So this was going to help them get a well. And so they put their money in the little dish, and the little girl says, "Should we pray?" And the little boy standing beside her said, "I don't know. Should we pray?" And Ian stands up tall and he says, "Of course we pray. He's God." He says, "God's all around us. Let us pray." So to me, that yay boy, it just makes me sing to have him know that he is the one that can help the others understand that, yes, of course we can. It's that kind of a family heritage, because my son John here is a retired Presbyterian minister. And when he was 7 years old, he came into the living room and he says to me, "I wish Jesus was here." And I said, "Well, I do too. Why you?" He says, "Because I've got questions." And I said, well, maybe I can help you. He said, but you don't have the answers. And I said, well, try me, just try me. So he says, all right. He says, how can God be if he never got started? And I, oh, uh-huh. Okay, well, maybe it's like a circle. It doesn't have a beginning or an end. He says, I knew you didn't have the answers, and off he goes. But it's being aware of who's asking questions that are really important questions. And my next son, Bob, came in one day, and he's jumping around, and he says, I know something, I know something, I know. And I said, what's that, Bobby? He says, if I make a friend, he makes a friend, he'll make a friend, he'll make a friend, it'll go all around the world and come back to me. Of course he's a psychologist. It's that kind of a listening to what a child is saying and then encouraging it, or listening to what your friend is saying and finding the reality in what that person is saying and encouraging it. In other words, it's love and life reaching for each other. Mm. And as we're doing that with each other, it's no matter who we're working with, it's important.
How much fun do you get to have every day?
Oh man, I wake up and the sun comes up. And I say this because I said it when the kids were all growing up. Good morning, Mary Sunshine. What made you rise so soon? You scared the little stars away and shined away the moon. So that's what I wake up with, and it's, yeah, oh wow, what are we going to do today?
How many of your kids and grandkids come to you for counsel or for questions?
They all do in their own way. Mm. They have their ways. I had one of my great grandkids. She was 5 years old, and she just walking around my living room here, and she walked up behind me. I didn't know she was behind me, but all of a sudden I felt little fingers up the back of my neck, just feeling my neck. Now, she didn't ask me, can I touch your neck? She just did it. And for me, it was such a joy. And I still glory in that fact that Eugenia came in and just snug her fingers up. She didn't need to ask.
That's beautiful. How do you keep yourself so sharp? Because in our world, there's so much talk about dementia and mental health and all these things that make it feel like the world is heavy. How do you keep yourself light and sharp?
I don't want to go into the dark side any more than I have to. I'm looking for the light. And when I'm looking for the light, there are other people looking for the light. When I'm looking for my true humanity, I find that we're all looking for our true humanity when we start asking these questions, because they are personal questions that we have that have personal answers. And so we that's what we're looking for. There's enough 𝙁𝙀𝙀𝙀, it doesn't matter, going on in the world. And, we can get tucked. We actually, let me tell you this, because we all get tripped up sometimes. I had just had my 99th birthday, and I stopped at the grocery store to get my groceries. and I was putting them in, going to take them from the cart into my car. And the elderly gentleman came up to me and he says, "Oh, may I help you?" And I said, No, I can do this. And he puffs himself up and he says to me, "Well, I'm 86 years old." Well, somehow that pushed a button in me, and I puffed myself up and I said, "And I'm 99. And I strutted off and got into the car and sat down and I started laughing. But I couldn't stop laughing because first of all, I was just talking to myself and saying, "You better get out of this car and go into that grocery store and tell him you're sorry." For he was just a nice old guy that wanted to do something. And how dare you be a nasty old lady? And then I got to thinking, this is a cartoon scene. This is something that is really funny. And I started laughing and I couldn't get my car started. I was laughing so hard. And then I got to thinking, he's going to go home and he's going to say to his wife, "Do you know that I did this nice thing for this lady, and nasty old lady, she turned around and said, and I started laughing and I sat there and laughed until I could do it, because I knew that when he could continue this story if he wished. If he didn't, that's all right. It would die someplace along the line. And it was one of those things where I really could perpetuate it by making more of it than it needed to be. It was a big lesson for me, but so it took me a long time to stop laughing enough to get my car started.
So we're always learning, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Are you still riding your red tricycle?
No, I was riding that tricycle, I think 6 months ago, and I hit a bump and my bicycle bumped me off, and I landed, broke 3 ribs, but they're all healed now. And my kids say I can't ride the bicycle. They were forbidden. So I walked past it and I apologize and go on into the house.
I have 2 more things for you. If I put you in front of a group that is in their early 20s, what would you love to say to them?
Find your juice, what it is that makes you happy, what it is that makes you sing. It doesn't need to be anything that anybody else finds joyous. It's like, well, let's see, let me think. Okay, if I wanted to just capture something that would make me laugh right now, I would sing Nach Balu Nach, Paisa Milega, Ek Ne Do Ne Part Milega. And that's just a song that I used to sing with my kids. And it's Dance Bear, because the dancing bears used to come around and Dance Bear Dance. If you dance well, you'll get money. If you don't, you'll get a putt-putt. You'll smack. And, it's just fun things like that sometimes just make you giggle. And that's worth getting a good giggle over.
Dr. Gladys, is there anything that you'd like to say that I didn't ask you?
Well, I wrote a book.
Yes, The Well-Lived Life.
Yeah.
An incredible book. I've read, I have it on my computer and I've been reading it, and I go back to lots of pages to really absorb them. I've really enjoyed the stories about the patients and the idea of love
Well,
and the juice of life.
I had written all those books about medicine, but I couldn't put the juice into it. I was able to do that with this book. It's the heart of healing is love and life. And if we can understand that really is what it's about, it makes life so wonderful. You know, at one point, my husband said to me, "Will you stop saying that word?" And I said, "What?" He says, "Wonderful. You say it all the time." And I said, "Well, it is wonderful." He said, "No, people think you're a Pollyanna. Stop saying wonderful." So I tried for a week to stop saying wonderful. I finally said to him, "I can't do it. I think life is wonderful, and I can't stop saying it. So let me say it, and I'm going to say it." So, it's a matter of claiming what it is that you want to address in your life. What it is. Yeah, what it is.
Dr. Gladys, thank you so much.
Oh, yes, it's aging into health.
Mm.
That's the sentence I was looking for.
What does that mean to you, aging into health?
Well, I am legally blind, and I have hearing aids, but my eyesight might be gone, but my insight is better.
Mm.
So if we're losing one aspect of what has been useful during the lifetime, look for how else you can explain it and how else you can use that energy. It's a matter of, it's your energy. It's what you've used all along. Now, how are you going to use it?
Beautiful way to end this. Thank you so much. Truly, truly appreciate you doing this and all the wisdom you're sharing. And to our listeners,
Thank you.
please get this book and read what it means to live a well-lived life. And please remember, your attitude always determines your altitude in life. Dr. Gladys, thank you, and I love you.
Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. I receive that.